Om Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavat Padam Shankaram Lokashankaram. So now, as we saw that in Vivekachudamani, the text actually is the answer to the 7 questions of the disciple to his guru, to his teacher. And the cause of bondage was asked as the second question. What is bondage? That was the first question. What is the cause? That was the second question. And the third question was, how does bondage continue to exist? How it is sustained? How it is sustained? What is the structure? What is the framework through which this bondage is sustained? So that was the third question, which will be answered by the teacher in the 145th and in the 146th verse of the Vivekachudamani. So we will enter into the 145th verse, where we will find Bhagavad Pada Shankaracharya with the help of a tree. He is using the tree as an allegory for the samsara vriksha. That this, our phenomenal existence is just like a tree, and we, like a bird, are sitting on the tree, enjoying the fruits of the tree, and that entails in all the joys and sufferings of our life, and how to get rid of it. So that also will be indicated in the next verse. So now let's read the verse, and then we will go into the discussion of it. Bijang sangsriti bhumi jasya tu tamo dehatmadhi ankura ragah pallavah ambu karmah tu vapuh skandah asavah shakhikaah agrani indriya sanghatihi cha vishayaah pushpani dukkhang phalam nana karma samudbhavam vahuvidham bhokta atra jiva khagah. So jiva is the khagah. Khaga is the bird. He is the bhokta. He is the enjoyer. What he is enjoying? He is enjoying the tree. From where it has came? From the bija. Bija sanskriti bhumi jasya. Bhumija. Tree has been termed as bhumija. What it means? That which is born from the soil. So in Sanskrit, whenever you will find the word ja, the prefix, the suffix ja is used with the word, it means born from something. So bhumija. Bhumija means that which is born from the soil, from the bhumi. So there's a tree. So this tree is sanskriti, means it is this sansara rupa tree. Saying that the bija is tamo, the ignorance, the darkness is the bija. Dehatmadhi ankura. The moment the ignorance comes into picture, our identification with the body-mind complex in the form of ego, that has been spoken of as the ankura. The moment I sow a seed in the soil, the first evolute is the shoot. That shoot is the ankura. And that has been spoken of as the ego. Ragah Pallava. The moment ego comes into picture, attachment grows. We will come into the discussion with the help of some other allegory too. Raga Pallava. The attachment. The raga is the sprouts. So first the shoot comes, and you will find 2 tender leaves comes out. That's what we see with the sapling. The 2 small tender leaves will come out. That's the sprout. So that is the raga. It is actually speaking of the evolutes. Just like from the bija, from the seed, first the shoot comes, from the shoot the 2 sprouts come. So that speaks of the evolutes. So here also from the vija, from the ignorance comes ego, our attachment to this body-mind complex, dehatmadhi, means dhi means knowledge, that my deha is atma, deha atmadhi, this idea, this speaks of the ego, that I am this body-mind complex. This idea speaks of the ego, that is the shoot. And then raga pallava, all the attachments that are like from the shoot, then comes the sprouts, the two leaves, the sapling, and ambu karma. The moment those two tender leaves come, it is thirsty to sustain itself for growth. It needs to be sustained by water. Immediately the roots will pull the water, drag the water upwards to sustain the entire sapling. So the moment raga is there, the moment the leaves come out, the moment the sprouts come out, now the desire to exist, that develops and the action starts. That's why the water has been spoken of as karma. The water which has been drawn from the soil moving upward to sustain the entire plant is the karma. That speaks of the action. So in the tree which appears to be inert, actionless, all the action is going on within in the form of the nutrients by being carried by the water upwards to sustain the entire plant. So that is the karma, ambu karma, the water in the form of the sap which is coming up to sustain the plant is the action. Tu vapuhu skandaha. So the body is the trunk. Now for action to take place, you need a framework. So the trunk is the body. Asava shakhika. Asava means for action to happen, what are the things we require? We require a body as a framework. We need energy. So this energy has been spoken of as the evolute, as the shakhika, as the branches. Agrani indriya sanghatihi, and the organs are the twigs. From the branches, like the twigs comes out. It all speaks of the evolutes. So from agrani indriya sanghati, so all the twigs are like the indriyas. Cha vishaya pushpani dukkhang phalam, and all the flowers are the vishaya, the sense objects. And we know that from flowers come fruits. The moment we enjoy the sense objects, what it results in? Ultimately misery. You say, no, we have so much of joy out of it. But all the joy which comes from the sensory pleasures are temporary. They are agama, apaina, anitya. They come at a certain point of time, and with our association with it, we do get some joy, and then apaina, it vanishes. It is anitya. So ultimately all the worldly pleasures do end in suffering. So that's why the fruit, the flower is the sense objects, by enjoying which what I get? The fruit, which is misery. Phalam dukkham. Simply it has been told, because all enjoyments which comes from the sense pleasures is bound to end in dukkha, because all the things are temporary. It's not permanent. So at last it ends up in misery. So nana karma samudbhavam bahuvidham bhokta. So all the individual soul is the bird in it. This bahuvidham, nana karma samudbhavam. So all these various actions which entails by enjoying the fruits of the tree. For that, who is the bhokta? Atra jiva khagaha. The bird who is sitting on the tree is the jiva, the jivatma, who gets associated with this tree and goes on enjoying the results of taking the fruit of it in the form of joys and sorrows. And here it has been spoken of as dukkha, because all joy at last end in sorrow, because they are not permanent. So that's the idea. The first idea here is that the bird is something which is not the tree. In Sankhya Yoga, there is a very nice idea which we can relate here. What's the idea? Sanghato pararthatvat. That wherever you find that there is a thing has been formed by the conglomeration of many things, a whole which is made up of many parts. The whole which is made up of many parts. You will find in this world that anything which is a composite of many parts, that composite doesn't serve the purpose of any of the parts. To clarify, that the room in which we are sitting, it is made up of bricks, it is made up of the wood, cement, the timber, so many things are there. Does this room serve the purpose, any purpose for the brick, for the cement, for the timber, for the electricity? It doesn't serve. They are the constituents of this thing called room. But these constituents are in no way served by the whole. For whom this whole is, this room is meant for? For someone who is not a constituent. I am not a constituent. I come from outside, and in the shrine, I use this shrine for meditation, or maybe for chanting, or for scriptural classes, discussions, or for prayers, whatever it may be. But I am not a constituent of this room. I am parartha. I am something, I am apart from this room, apara. So sanghata apara arthatvat. I am apara, I am not a part of this room. For my purpose, this conglomerate is used. So that's why the jiva, that the conscious principle, the jiva, he is not a constituent of all this conglomerates which has resulted in this samsara vriksha. It's not a part. It is something apart from it. But for it, this constituent has been made so that it can go through all these experiences. Ultimately, from all these experiences, it attains some wisdom, and then that wisdom leads into liberation. So it is for the parartha. It is for for the purpose of someone else who is not a constituent of it. So first comes the bija. That is the ignorance, the seed. Just as in a seed, the entire tree is as if hidden. The entire tree is in a potential form in the seed. Just the same way from the tamo, the ignorance, is just like the seed from which the entire creation sprouts. So that's why the seed has been compared with the ignorance. The moment the ignorance is there, comes the dehatma buddhi, that I am this body-mind complex. So the first evolute of ignorance is dehatma buddhi. So that's why the shoot has been compared with the ego. And moment the dehatma buddhi comes, just that example which we give again and again, that the ultimate conscious principle, when comes in association, what to speak of human body, even a microbe body, what it will do? That the moment it is associated with the microbe body, attachment grows. That to sustain itself, it will be drawn towards something which sustains it. It will be repelled from something which harms its existence. So the raga, the attachment, comes from dehatma buddhi. The moment ego comes into picture, the other three evolutes, as has been spoken of in the yoga philosophy, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. This all three has been clubbed under the term raga. Raga means attachment, dvesha means hatred, abhinivesha means fear of death. Why we club all those things in raga? Because dvesha and abhinivesha in a way is raga. That why I hate something? Because I love life. I love this limited existence. Whatever is harmful for it, I hate that. So it actually, my hatred actually speaks of my love for my ego. My fear of death speaks of my love for this limited ego. So that way all this raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, all these three has been clubbed as raga. And the evolute, from the shoot comes the sprouts, the two saplings, the two leaves that comes, tender leaves. So it's an evolute of that. So similarly here also we find from the ego comes the raga. there is attachment. And once the attachment is there, now the moment the microbe is having the attachment for the nutrient, what it will be doing? Immediately the action comes into picture. It will be moving towards it. If in place of nutrient, if you give some toxin, it will move away from it. So from raga comes karma. So the next evolute of raga is action. So here also we find the same thing, that from for the leaves to be sustained, the water, the action which is going on in the tree which appears to be inert, but all the action is going on within. How the water is moving upwards to sustain the entire sapling. So that speaks of the karma. From raga comes karma. So the movement of the water is the. Now for any action to really happen, this action cannot happen without any matter. That a force has to act on matter, then only that force can find manifestation. So here force in the form of this action, it needs some framework. So this body, the trunk through which the sapling, through which the sap is moving up. So that's the framework. So that is spoken of as the body, the framework. And we need energy. That for action to happen, you need a body and you need a constant source of energy. So the next evolute of the trunk finds expression as the branches. So the branches has been spoken of as the vital energy, vital forces. And at last, all the actions has to manifest through the limbs, through my karmendriyas. So these are like the tools. So those tools are like the next of the branches comes the twigs. So these twigs are all the indriyas through which I resort to action. And then what? The flowers. Flowers are the vishaya. That through my indriyas, what I reach out to the objects of the senses. So they are the vishaya. Through that, my organs, through my sense organs, I reach out to the senses. I am drawn out to the sense objects. So the flowers are the vishaya. So it's the next evolute of the twig. From the twig, we find the flower is sprouting up. So that's the flower is the vishaya. And from the flower comes the fruit. Once the vishaya is there, I move out, I enjoy the vishaya. From that comes all the so-called joys and sufferings in life. The joy has not been mentioned, as we were just mentioning, because all joy at last, all the sensate joy at last ends in suffering. Because anything we enjoy is not permanent. What we get, that nature gives us in bounty at some point of time, will take away again at certain point of time. That's why Swamiji is saying, in life we find that a young man is so optimistic, but it is very difficult to find an old man very optimistic. It is there always. You'll find just the opposite, as if all the charm of life has gone. So pessimistic they become. Why? Because they took it for granted, because of myopic vision, short-sightedness. When they got everything in bounty, nature gave everything in bounty, they thought, I'm going to stay with them as if forever. That's short-sightedness. They never have that idea that everything is bound to be relinquished. Nature will force away everything from us in the form of jara, vyadhi, mrityu. That old age, disease, death is there waiting for me. We are short-sighted. And that's why it ends in dukkha. So all the fruit is the dukkha. So this is the idea which we find that is being indicated in this sloka. What it is saying, that the ignorance sustained by these consecutive evolutes. From ignorance comes ego, from ego comes attachment leads to action, and from action happens with the help. For that action we need the body, we need the vital force, energy, and the sense organs through which we reach out to the sense objects, and once we enjoy it, it results in dukkha. So these all evolutes. With this, the jiva is constantly getting engaged, is constantly enjoying the fruits, and that's how is being stuck up in the so-called this bondage in the form of samsara vriksha. the tree of worldliness. It has got stuck up there. So nowadays, these examples, this in the time of Shankaracharya, he is giving the example with the help of a tree. Nowadays, we can find another example. Just take a mobile phone, with which it is very easy to understand this sequence in which the ignorance is sustained. So it's like when I go to a shop to purchase the mobile phone, it is just a Ouija. That's there your contact details, all the apps, nothing is there. But you know for certain that everything can be uploaded. And I know very well that the moment I buy it, personalize it, I can have all my contacts, whatever apps I want can be there. So it has so much of potentiality. But they are all hidden. When in the showroom I go, I see the mobile. It's nothing, my contact details are not there, the apps are not there, nothing is there. I all have to upload there. So it is the Ouija. Seeing that, what happens first? After, among so many mobile phones, a particular mobile I get drawn to. And first idea comes, it is mine. That idea comes. The moment that idea comes, now the desire, what the desire? I have to get it to buy it. You buy it. So this, the moment that you get identified with it, the ego comes into picture. Now the desire, you make it your own. And then the karma, action starts. What? You will start uploading all your contact details, all the apps, whatever it may be. You just start uploading. The karma starts. Now for the karma, a very interesting thing, that the real mobile is actually something non-local. When you are uploading your contacts, apps, the way it is working, it is not something inside the mobile. When you are watching a movie in your mobile, is the all the characters of the movie inside the mobile? No, it is non-local. It is something which is in the form of transmission everywhere. But that transmission cannot be seen unless you have this mobile phone. So this is the body. This is the body. So for though the so-called, till now all the attachment happened is in the mind, which is non-local. But the mind needs a body to act. So that's why this body, the trunk, the mobile phone itself is like the trunk, is the body. It has to be charged. It has to be charged. Without charge, you cannot think of operating the mobile phone. That speaks of the vitality, vital energy. And what are the sense organs? Your keypad. The keypad which you are operating, through which you are doing all the actions. That are the sense organs. And through which you reach out. You can understand. You just reach out. You can call someone. This what whom you are calling are the sense objects. What you are viewing are the sense objects. You are reaching out to the world. They are the sense objects. And at last, what it results in? Of course, even now we can very nicely relate. There are so many articles everywhere that mobile, at last, how is the cause of our misery, isn't it? So, do we think we are going to enjoy, but it ends up in misery. So similarly, this entire body, in a sense, is just like that mobile, on which the khaga, the jivatma, has got associated and is enjoying the fruits of his action. So, this same example of bird sitting on a tree has been nicely depicted in our Mundaka Upanishad. There are two verses, two mantras in Mundaka Upanishad, very wonderful mantras. What are they? Dva suparna sayuja sakhaya samanang brikshang parishashvajate tayor anya pippalang swadu atyan ashnan ananyo abhichakashiti samane brikshe purusho nimagno anishaya shauchati muhyamana jushtang yada pashyanti anyam isham asya mahimanam iti vita shoka. Very wonderful sloka. We need not go into just word by word explanation. The idea, even Swami Vivekananda, very nicely he has resorted to these slokas in one of his lectures, that this, our psychophysical existence is like the tree in which the jivatma, the I, that's the one who feels identified with this body-mind complex, the jivatma, is one of the bird. But there is another bird who is the Paramatma, who is always just observing. not in any way getting associated with the body-mind complex. So he is the Paramatma. There's the two birds. The Paramatma is sitting on the topmost branch, just witnessing what's going on. And the lower bird, the bird which is in the lower branches, that's the Jivatma, what it is doing constantly, it is eating the fruits. Some fruits are sweet. When it eats the sweet fruits, it enjoys. And then again, there are bitter fruits, it suffers. So that's what is going on. He's constantly enjoying and again is being thrown into abject misery. This is going on. And suddenly, he most probably tastes a very bitter fruit and he's disgusted with himself and he looks up and sees the bird sitting on the topmost branch without eating any fruit. It is just sitting in its own majesty and with its own glory. It is sitting there. This lower bird gets drawn towards it. So it stops eating the fruits and starts moving up. It starts moving up. And after moving just a little few branches up, it again forgets. Again it goes on eating the sweet and bitter fruits. And again, when it is thrown to some abject misery, again it looks up, sees the upper bird. Again it remembers that I have to go near that. It is drawing me, that majestic bird, without tasting the fruit, sitting there, just witnessing what's going on. So again it starts moving up. And gradually as it comes near the upper bird, it finds a very interesting thing, that its wings are getting merged in the wings of that bird. The more it goes near, it finds the halo of that bird is gradually engulfing this lower bird. And at last, when the lower bird is quite sufficiently near that upper bird, it finds that it actually never existed. It was just the reflection. It was just the upper bird. It was one with the upper bird, always established in its own glory, in its own majesty. The moment it realizes that, just it becomes one with the upper bird, and the question of tasting the fruits of the samsara tree no more comes into question. So it becomes just one with that. So that's in the Mundaka Upanishad. We find that the same allegory in some more poetic way it has been explained. It is not one bird, it is two birds, the Paramatman and the Jivatman. So that's what we are doing. That we find that within us there is a witness which is not in any way changing. It is always witnessing all the states of our existence. And there is another I within us which is constantly getting identified with the happenings of life, resulting in the dualities in the form of joys and sorrows. And our endeavor is again and again to stop our interaction with this so-called sensate world and to go nearer to that one who is the witness. The more we do that, at last we find this idea of this ego is false. It was because of ignorance I got associated with it. I was never in any way identified with it. The entire tree was just for my education. Swamiji is saying a very nice thing, that we think the world is out there for our pleasure. It's a pleasure garden. But actually it is a gymnasium where we have came to make ourselves strong through all our interactions with the world. It is just like in a gymnasium. We are exercising against the weight to develop our strength. Similarly, this world, our constant interaction is actually exercise through which we gradually learn, and at last we develop that detachment. And after developing the detachment, we at last again get established in our own self. So it was a process through which we learned, we regained our lost glory. It's not that I've really lost. I just became forgetful about it. And I regained, the memory of it came back and I got dissociated from it. So it was just there to educate me, like a book. When I am reading a book, Swamiji gives that example also. The page after page I am reading, at last the book is over, I have gained the knowledge, and this book has no use for me. I keep it aside. So this entire life, with all the experiences like a book, we are moving page after page. We all are destined at last to attain that liberation, today or tomorrow. Once the book, reading of the book is over, we totally get detached from it. And it was there just to educate us. That we somehow forgot our own glory to regain our old glory. It was there to educate us, and its purpose is solved. So that's the allegory which Shankaracharya is resorting to in the form of the tree. That this tree, in the form of the various evolutes, is sustaining the ignorance till that our detachment develops. And we develop the detachment, and with the detachment, we dissociate ourselves from this tree, and that entails in our liberation. So, with this, Shankaracharya is trying to explain that what sustains that ignorance. It is once I get attached with the body-mind complex, all the evolutes, one after other, they manifest and keep me bound in that tree, that manifestation which came from that seed. In it, ages together, lives after life, till I, gain the wisdom, the spiritual wisdom, and get detached from it. So knowledge alone can take me away, take me out of this ignorance. So in the next verse, we'll find the nature of this ignorance is again described by saying what? The 146th verse. Ajnana mula ayam anatma bandha naisargikaha anadi ananta iritaha janma apyaya vyadhi jaradi dukkha prabahapatam janayati amushyaha. Amushya means the individual, the Purusha. So this he, if it generates to the Purusha, this janayati, what it generates? When ajnana is the mula, when ajnana is the source, mula means the source. When the ignorance is the source, from that results in anatma bandha, my bondage with something which is not the self. This body-mind complex, this tree, which is not the bird, which is not the self. With that, the bird, the jivatma gets attached. So anatma bandha, bandha means the bondage with something which is not the self. Anatma bandha. So bondage of the non-self has the ignorance as its source, the ignorance as the cause. That's why it's a mula. Mula means the source. Ajnana mula, anatma bandha, and it is something by default we have got. Naisargika. Naisargika means it is natural. It is there from birth. When we are born in ignorance. So that's what, and anadi ananta. Anadi ananta. Why it's called anadi ananta? With knowledge it ends. But till the dawn of knowledge, there is no end of it. So when I am dreaming, can I say when the dream started? Can I say when the dream is going to end? When I am in the dream, I have no idea of its beginning and of its end. Only when the dream wakes, I know, oh, yes, that I was dreaming. But when I am in the dream, at the time, there is no question of beginning or end. So that's why it is called Anadi Ananta. Ananta, as long as I am in the ignorance. But when Jnana dawns in, it ends. But when it has started, that I can never say. So this Anadi Ananta, Janma Apyaya Vyadhi Jaradi. What are the consequences of it? It generates what? It's suffering in the form of birth, janma, apyaya, death, vyadhi means disease, jaradi. Jaradi speaks of the decay, the process of degeneration. All this ultimately speaks of dukkha. This goes on, prabaha patam. It goes on in succession. Pravaha patam means in succession it goes on. And that's how it makes the individual suffer. So this is the thing by which the ignorance is sustained. That why Shankaracharya is highlighting all those things? Just to say that in no way this world has the capacity to give us happiness. It advertises a lot. It has an advertisement that I am going to give you happiness. But it doesn't have the capacity to give us even a slight tinge of happiness, a flavor of happiness. That's why in Bhagavad Gita commentary in Shankaracharya is indicating in 1 plus that sukham gandhamatram na vindyate, that not even a small little, what to speak of tasting. You know that while we are tasting the food, before that we enjoy the flavor. When the food is being cooked, from the the nice flavor, or even the food is served, the nice fragrance, the flavor comes. We enjoy that. After that we enjoy the food. Shankaracharya is saying, what to speak of enjoying the food? This world doesn't have the capacity even to give you that flavor. Gandhamatram na vindyate. This doesn't have. It's full of this dukkha. To bring into our awareness this idea that after all this attachment is going to result in suffering and suffering alone. In detail, Shankaracharya in these 2 verses is speaking of how ignorance is sustained. After speaking of that, of how ignorance is sustained, he is going to answer the 4th question, that how one is freed from bondage, that how we can go, how can we be freed from the bondage. The Guru has taken up this question, that how is one freed from the bondage, in the next 2 verses. Actually, he has answered previously in the 69th and in the 70th verse. He has given an answer. But now again, to stress the need for going beyond the bondage, again in these 2 verses, the 147th and the 148th verse, he is going to answer the 4th question, that how is one freed from bondage. So 147th verse. Na astrai na shastrai anilena vanhina chettung na shakya na cha karma koti bhi viveka vigyana maha asina vina dhatu prasadena shitena manjuna. So this bondage cannot be. So in this world, whenever we think of destroying anything, what we think? We think all in material terms, that armors, weapons, all these things are the things by which I can destroy anything. So here Shankaracharya is saying that it is not something material. So that's why we cannot think of destroying it with the help of astra shastra, with the weapons, with the armors. Even in Bhagavad Gita, that sometimes I can think of drying up something and getting rid of it. So that's why na anilena, this even with a wind, I cannot dry it up. Vanhina, I cannot burn it with the help of fire. Chettung na shakya na cha karma koti bhi. So in this life, sometimes to get rid of something, we resort to some action. Isn't it? That with the help of some action, we get rid of something. To gain something, action we resort to. So that's why even in the Vedas, we find in the entire Karma Kanda, so many yagyas to attain this, to attain this, do such yagya, do this and this yagya. So all those karmas may help us attaining some worldly end, but those karmas is in no way going to help us to attain liberation from the bondage. So na cha karma kotivi. You may go on resorting to actions life after life, but it is not going to entail in liberation. So why Shankaracharya is indicating that what to speak of yagya? Even in our day-to-day life, we think this meditation, japa, this will lead to liberation. No, not even that. Why? Then are they of no use? No, they are of useful, but in a negative way. But in a negative way, what? They are there to remove the vagaries of the mind. But the jnana, when all the cobwebs of the mind falls off, the knowledge illumines by itself. The jnana is something which comes by itself. I cannot attain that knowledge. So in a negative way, all those karmas are of no use. But that doesn't mean I won't be meditating. I won't be resorting to the spiritual practices. They are all karma. But they don't entail in liberation. What they do, they just clear the chitta. And then the knowledge alone is the factor which entails in liberation, that dawns in. So that's the thing Shankaracharya is saying. Viveka Vijnana. The moment the discrimination that I am not the body-mind complex, I am the self, this is the Viveka. This Vijnana, which is the real sword, Maha Asina. Asi is the sword. Maha means the great, it is the Maha Asina. Without that knowledge, Dhatu Prasadena, without that, and that knowledge dawns in, for that first, the Dhatu Prasada. This word is a technical term. What it means? The purification of the mind and the senses. Dhatu Prasada. Prasada means placidity, tranquility. Dhatu is the mind and the senses. When the mind and the senses become placid, and then this Viveka Vijnana, that arises. That's like the sword which will be cutting off the bondage of ignorance. And that sword is has been, other two adjectives has been used. Shitena Manjuna. Shitena means which is very sharp, and Manjuna means which is user friendly, means something which is pleasant. When this knowledge comes, that knowledge is something with the help of which I don't have to struggle. Spontaneously all the ignorance falls off. That's the meaning of the word Manjuna, that it is something spontaneous. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, that when I light a matchstick in a room which was dark for thousands of years, is the darkness going to vanish little by little? Another 1,000 years it will take to vanish? No, it vanishes immediately. So how long I was in ignorance, that's not the factor. The moment the knowledge dawns in, it immediately vanishes in one strike. So that's the thing is being indicated by the word Manjuna, that it is something which is very user friendly. Immediately it happens. Immediately it results in that liberation. So this bondage cannot be broken by the weapons or wind or fire or by performing yajnas as has been prescribed in the karma kantas of the Vedas. By nothing. One has to develop this discrimination which comes from the Dhatu Prasada, placidity of the mind. Now how to develop that placidity of the mind? So even in the Kathopanishad we find it is mentioned that this alone is the criteria for the knowledge to dawn in. That there is a very wonderful mantra in Kathopanishad which speaks Tamakratu Pashyati Vita Shoka. Dhatu Prasada, same word is Dhatu Prasada. This word has been derived from Kathopanishad. Dhatu Prasadat Mahimanam Atmana. Tam Akratu. Akratu means a desireless person. When a person for whom all the desires has fallen off, Tam Akratu, then a desireless person, Pashyati, he sees the Atman, realizes the Atman. How? Dhatu Prasadat. Because of the tranquility of the mind and senses, that results in that realization. And what it results in? Vita Shoka. He goes beyond all suffering, all misery. Once he realizes the Atman, nothing can bind him back. He goes beyond all misery. So that's why we find this is the beauty of the Vedanta Shastra, the Upanishad. It doesn't speak of believing in some doctrines and dogmas. It speaks of realization, that we all have the capacity to realize the self. Very nicely Swami Vivekananda in one place is saying that if you say that only the prophet has realized God, others have just to believe in him, the question of realizing God doesn't come. You have to believe. He says it is the most it is a thing which has no efficacy. And he gives a very nice example. He says that I don't know whether in the time of Swami Vivekananda the idea of patent was there, but he's using the same example of patent. Like suppose there is some pandemic, like few years back in this 2020 when there was COVID, and we were hearing that some vaccine has been invented, but immediately it didn't come to the market. It took some time. Though the vaccine was invented, they were going through the case studies. That yes, it has been tested on 100 patients And yes, 90% was successful, 98% was successful. And then only we told, yes, now this medicine can be broadly uh, distributed for all throughout the country, every nation, because it is effective. So what it speaks of, that patenting, that why when I can patent it, once the efficacy has been proven through the case studies. Now if you say that only the prophet has realized God and no one can realize, all just have to believe, then the spirituality itself becomes the less effective thing. It has no, because the case study shows that out of 100 only one. So he says that we want, Swami is saying very nicely, that the spirituality should be something which can give us the assertion, that certainty, that what, that yes, for each and everyone has the capacity to realize that. And Vedanta is asserting that yes, there is a way of Vita to become Akratu, and become Vita Shoka, go beyond all suffering. How? By Dhatu Prasada, by calming down the mind. Now how to calm down the mind? That again is the question. Is it only through meditation? We will find here Shankaracharya is now very nicely synthesizing that he was now just now decrying the karma. He was saying that if you go on doing karma, you are not going to attain mukti. But then is karma useless? No. In the 148th verse, he will say that karma is needed for this dhatu prasada, for the tranquility of the mind and senses. It has a negative effect. It actually cleanses. Once the obstruction is cleansed, the thing which is obstructed, that shines forth. There's nothing you can never gain it. It was already there. Something was covering it. You have removed. All your practices were meant for removal of that. So all those karmas are meant for chitta shuddhi, are meant for dhatu prasada. So this dhatu prasada will be spoken of in the 148th verse. So that's why we have to read all the verses together. Otherwise we become fanatic. We say, oh, as a sannyasi we should be niragni, we should be akriya, no work, we shouldn't touch fire. So that's why in Bhagavad Gita also Bhagavan is saying that the real sannyasa is the relinquish of the desires, not just physically renouncing fire. That as I won't touch fire, so I just go for begging because I cannot cook food, or I'm not going to do some karma. So these all ideas come when I am not studying the entire scripture in entirety. I take one verse and just have a half digested meaning of it. If you read the next verse, you will find that after saying this, by doing actions, endless actions, I can never attain any this liberation. I cannot go beyond bondage. And then we will say, oh, I have to then stop action. No. This dhatu prasada which has been spoken of, that is attained through action, will be spoken of in the next verse. How to attain this dhatu prasada? Sruti pramana ekamatehe swadharma nishtha. Swadharma nishtha. This is the catch point. Taya eva atma vishuddhi asyaha. Vishuddha buddhe paramatma vedanam tena eva sansara samula nasha. So one who is passionately devoted to the authority of the Shrutis says that all has to resort to action based on swadharma. Now, many will say, oh, this is encouraging the caste system. That as per the caste, the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, that our actions are fixed. I have to go on doing the actions as per my caste. But we will find that these ideas are the distorted forms which came much later. In Bhagavad Gita, in the Upanishads, nowhere we will find that our dharma, our swadharma is determined by the family in which I have been born. No, it is guna karma vibhaga. In Bhagavad Gita, it has been mentioned, it is guna karma vibhagasha. As per my guna, as per my natural psychological inclinations, traits, I have inclinations for certain type of action. And that is my dharma. And that dharma, the Shruti has spoken of, broadly has been divided into 4 categories. Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Even in this present society, you will find it is there. Brahmana, those who are interested in knowledge, either secular knowledge or spiritual knowledge, studies, research. So all those scientists, the professors, those who are devoted their life only for the culture of the knowledge, they are the Brahmanas. Kshatriyas, those who are looking after the administration, the army, the politicians, not all those who are in this federal government, looking after the security of the country, development of the nation. There are particular persons who have that temperament. They are all Kshatriyas. Vaishyas, the business class, those who by nature are inclined for this finance or business. The business class, all the businessmen. Vaishyas. Shudras, that all the service-oriented job, in the hotel, the one who is running the hotel, all the service-oriented jobs. Even in the council is a very Shudra. They will be collecting the garbage every week, keeping the entire locality clean, the parks clean, roads clean, serving. So now you will understand that it is actually not degrading someone. As per the nature, these are the 4 types of work we can have in the society. As per my nature, I resort to that particular work without expecting personal benefit. That I have to work, I cannot sit quiet, and I work with full focus as per my inclination, and if I can do that desirelessly, that results in Chitta Shuddhi. So that the scripture speaks of. So that is Shruti Pramana. From the Shruti, from our scriptures, we have got that idea that whatever as per our swadharma, as per our psychological traits, inclinations, whatever the work suits me, let me resort to that action without constantly thinking of selfish gains. And that will result in the placidity of your chitta. All the so-called the impurities of mind will be cleansed, and then the Viveka Jnana will dawn automatically. So now you will find the Karma Kanda and the Upanishads having synthesized with the help of the Karma Kanda, which speaks of resorting to the Swadharma. The Vedas tells us about the Swadharma, and the Upanishad speaks of attaining the true nature. So by following the true nature, one becomes purified and realize what the Upanishad speaks about. So but we have to take it in the proper sense. That in the Karma Kanda, if I resort to the Karma Kanda with the desire, the Yagyas I do with the desire, like Putreshti Yagya, this Rajasuya Yagya, to get the kingdom, to get a progeny. With those desires if I am doing, then it will give some worldly results. But if I go on doing actions, which again has been spoken of in the scriptures, in the Shruti, as per my Swadharma, without just expecting any selfish results out of it, it will result in the Chitta Shuddhi. And that itself you will find has a tremendous effect of cleansing the mind, purifying the mind. That's why we find that when someone came to Swami Vivekananda and told that I every day close the doors and windows of my room and sit for meditation, but I am still I find my mind is very restless, I cannot calm down my mind. Swamiji told my boy, first you open up the doors and windows. Just move out. See that what work you can do in the form of serving others. That will cleanse your mind. Then you think of meditation. So this two has to go hand in hand. Unless these actions are there in our life, a pure, exclusive meditative life is something which is not going to help us. So the Chitta Shuddhi happens by resorting to the actions as per my psychological inclinations. That results in Dhatu Prasada. And when Dhatu Prasada happens, then the knowledge dawns in spontaneously. So now if you read the scriptures, so otherwise even we cannot explain Shankaracharya's life itself. He is denouncing karma, but he himself is doing the most maximum karma. Traveling throughout India, at the age of 32 he died, establishing Advaita, establishing the four mathas, even the present day all the sampradayas, all the monasteries with all the monks, the denominations they have, everything was established by Shankaracharya. Such a huge amount of work he has done. So what that karma speaks of, as per his inclination, the spiritual inclination, he was doing that work selflessly for the this Atmana Moksha and Jagat Hita, for the others' welfare, not for my own selfish gain. And that's, then you can, if you just see his life, that itself is the interpretation of what he's saying. So that's why we have to take all these verses as a continuation. If you suddenly pick up one verse and try to understand its meaning, we will be distorting its meaning. So now you will find how beautifully Shankaracharya is saying that he's saying that without jnana there cannot be any liberation. But for that jnana, what are the how to get that jnana? That all the worldly means we know, they are in no way going to help us to attain that jnana. Then are the worldly means to be forsaken? No. There's all those worldly things, worldly means, when done selflessly, as per my inclination. That is very important. Swadharma. If I have that is inclination for what you say that in some human relations work. So, but I continue with this, as my father and mother told, you have to be an engineer. So I force myself to be an engineer, and I never find peace in my job. So that speaks of the restlessness of the mind. So as per my inclination, I have to resort to a profession which gives tranquility. So that's the one thing, and then that also has to be done selflessly. Not for constant, that if I'm constantly think of my personal gain, again it is disturbing my mind. I may get, I may not get. But if I think I'm just an instrument to serve a greater purpose. The greater purpose is the welfare of the world. There's all the activities which you are doing. Has two things. My profession helps to sustain me. That is, of course, one thing. And another thing is that the world is not going to sustain me without any reason. The doctor do cure the patient. That's why he's sustained. So the idea can be that whatever I earn, that is just for my mere sustenance. Let me not equate it with my work. What's the idea? That I have got a tremendous opportunity, a privilege to cleanse my mind by serving others. What I get, that I need for my sustenance. But let I not be a shopkeeper, a mercenary. Oh, this much of money I get out of this much of work. I won't work any extra. That much, only that much. So constant those calculations, what it speaks of? Extreme selfishness, extreme agitation of the mind. Constantly you are just thinking that most probably the world is going to exploit me. I have to gain maximum as much as possible. In that way, worldly gain will be there. Maybe in the worldly sense you may be really a successful person. Others will see you as a successful person. But in the core of your being you will find that I am a beggar. The mind is constantly disturbed. It's giving me no happiness. So it's a very common idea, and that's the thing which is spoken of here. Have to do it desirelessly. Then the mind gets cleansed, and that can ultimately take you to that liberation, for which you have to gain nothing. It is already there. Just cleanse the mind, and the knowledge will dawn it spontaneously. So with this, we stop our discussion. And the next class, the seventh question, the answer to the seventh question, that will ensue that how to discriminate between the self and the non-self, and in the process the concept of Panchakosha will come, which we studied as a nutshell. Now in details for verses together, Shankaracharya will be going on the discussion of the Panchakosha. And why? Because those are the layers of our false identification that has to be negated. Unless I know what are my false identifications, I can never negate them. So he will go through those layers of false identification, the Panchakosha, to negate them at last, so that I can get established in myself. So with this, we stop our discussion today. Thank you all. Namaskars.